Hey folks, welcome to another Teach Tuesday live video. Hopefully this one will go as well as the first one that we had. The format of this one is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be a little bit more of me just talking, and we don't have any recorded videos this time around. We do have Skype hooked up, so a couple of my colleagues from Cattle might join in. We'll see what they have to say if they join us in a little bit here. So without further ado, I'll start going through some of the questions that we received over the past week. And then this will also serve as a reminder that when this goes out as part of the Teach Tuesday email, this video will be included, and so will the link to submit new questions for next week, for next week's video. So the first question that we received was about how to caption videos in MyMedia or Kaltura within Canvas. And so there's a couple ways to do that. The first is using what is called machine captioning. So let me hop over to my desktop here. You can see I'm sitting in a Canvas course. And the captioning actually is done through the MyMedia tool and not within Canvas itself. So if you click on your account and then go to MyMedia, and then your instinct might be to click the little pencil icon to edit the video, like you would edit captions, but what you're actually going to want to do is click on the name of the video. And then if we scroll down, we'll see actions, and then we want to caption and enrich the video. And when we select that option, we'll get the menu to set the language that we want to caption in. It's probably going to be English, and then the only option for the service is machine captioning at this point. But you hit submit, and it'll tell you that it's been requested, and then you'll see that you have one set of captions pending below that video. I'm going to go back into MyMedia because I captioned one earlier so that you can see what it looks like once it's captioned. So again, you click on the name of the video, and you can see that it tagged the video with tags that it thinks are relevant, given the captions that it has. So if I go again to actions and then caption and enrich, I can see this caption file is now ready because the status is completed. And then I can also click on the pencil icon to edit those captions. And the editor is pretty straightforward. You can see at the various timestamps what the captions are going to be, and if you click on one of them, it will jump to that portion of the video. So you can see the video that corresponds with that text, and you can edit the text in here, and then just click save when you're done. Because these captions aren't perfectly accurate, and their accuracy will depend on how clear you're speaking and how good your microphone is, that sort of thing. Right. So that's one way if you want to just caption on your own, just as good practice. If you get a captioning request from Disability Services, they'll let you know in that message as well to contact us. But if you just forward that request on to us with a link to each of the videos that you need captioned, one of the easiest ways to do that is to send us the link to the page in Canvas where that video is posted, and then we can have it requested to be captioned by a captioning service that we use. So those captions are accurate to the degree that is required by Disability Services. It may pay to, or may be worthwhile to machine caption it first and see if the results are of the standard that's required as well. So something to keep in mind. Okay, so that was the first question. The next one of the next questions, or one question that we got a lot, we use Blackboard Ultra instead of Zoom, and whether people can use Zoom and how to use Zoom within Canvas. So the long story short of that is that UW System has a contract with Blackboard Ultra. That contract isn't a UWGB contract, but a system contract. And it is as a result of that contract that Blackboard Ultra is what is integrated in Canvas. Beyond that, between IT and the Center for the Advancement of Teaching and Learning, we only have the capacity to support so many tools. And among the tools that we can support, Zoom just isn't one of them. So we have already a host of tools that are available, and these decisions were made before moving to distance instruction, before Zoom was really on our radars. And so in terms of functionality and ease of use, IT, the product that they support most thoroughly is Microsoft Teams. And then, as you know, in CATL, just for ease of use from the student perspective, we use Blackboard Collaborate Ultra within Canvas in particular. So that said, despite some outside concerns with Zoom, Zoom has done an excellent job since moving online of marketing their product, and so it's fair to say that that many of you would like to use it, and that's perfectly fine. Just know that if you do use Zoom for your courses, the Division of Information Technology and the Center, neither of us, IT or CATL, can directly support you in using it. So bear that in mind, and know that if you use one of the other tools that's available, that we can help you a little bit more thoroughly, just because we're better versed in the tool. We do have IT, and if you get their newsletter, you'll have seen this already, but they do have a knowledge base article with a sort of table matrix to help you decide which tool might be best for your web conference, be that a department meeting or an instructional session. Again, Teams and Collaborate Ultra are sort of our go-tos at this point, but there are these Conference Now, Wistline, and Skype for Business. So there's also a few considerations provided on this page. It's worth a look. So, but this table is a really good place to get started. Okay, so why not Zoom but Blackboard Ultra? And I hope I addressed that particular question. If not, let us know. So I see that Todd has joined me on Skype. I'm maybe going to see if I can get him to get his audio working here. Yeah, like Todd and I both said, that recording will be up on the Teaching Remotely resources page, along with the schedule. I'll skip ahead a little bit on my agenda here, but along with the other webinars that we'll be hosting this week. And then, yeah, LibNeMe is a great resource. And there's also a handful of resources out, obviously available on the web. One of them that I like to refer to myself is the Center for Teaching Innovation at Cornell. They have an inclusive classroom site, and one of the pages of items to consider is the universal design for learning, and it's maybe a little too distilled, but it is nice in that it is the information is distilled there for folks. And if you're looking for other similar resources, do feel free to reach out to us in CATL to get more of that information. So that was the inclusive design piece. And as we mentioned, it sort of went along with the captioning question that we got. And then beyond that, we did get some questions about special or activities specific to particular courses, activities that folks do face-to-face, and how they can best transition those activities to a distance environment. And I think we've been doing our best to address those as they come in, but definitely that's another case where a one-on-one consultation with CATL is the recommendation. And again, our email, catl@uwgb.edu, is where we'll ask you to reach out to us. Okay, and those are the kinds of problems that we love working through with folks. So, okay, we've got a question here about the quizzes log in Canvas. Can you show us how to get to it and explain a bit about how it might help me identify where students are getting kicked out of an exam? So that is definitely a concern at this point, particularly given the connectivity issues that some of our students are facing as we move online. So I'll hop back over to my desktop again, and we'll make these the links to these pages available in the comments after the video. But as many of you, I'm sure, know, the Canvas documentation is really good, pretty straightforward, and they have an entire page about the quiz log for students. So as you might expect, you get to it through the quizzes tool in Canvas. But what I wanted to point out is sort of what the quiz log looks like and the sort of information that it provides. And so I like the way that this question was asked with respect to the fact that the instructor wants to know when a student is getting kicked out of an exam, because beyond that, the quiz log isn't terribly reliable. So some instructors feel that they can identify cheating, like if a student is going back and forth and looking in their book, and to an extent that's true, but the quiz log is not a perfect science. So depending on which web browser they're using, that sort of thing. Also, if they're just reading through the exam first and they're idle on the page for a certain period of time, it will say that they stopped looking at the exam or the quiz, even though they're still in it and active. So the thing that you want to pay attention to is this stopped viewing the Canvas quiz taking page. And what that means is that they paused for a certain threshold, and I don't remember if it's 15 seconds or how much time it is. It's described in here in more detail. But if they make an indication that they were kicked out of the exam or they were having internet difficulties, that's what you want to look for. And so this might be a matter of so the timestamp that's here is an approximation of the time that has passed since they started the exam. So if the student says, I got kicked out of the exam because my Wi-Fi dropped and I was out of it for 5 minutes, can I get 5 extra minutes on the exam? Here's where you could come in, and if this was a difference of 5 minutes versus less than a second, then or less than a minute, then you could go in and verify that the student was in fact out of the exam for 5 minutes and that they maybe need that extra time. So something to take into account. The other piece of information that I wanted to make you aware of is that it will say that they saw and possibly read a question, and that's an even less perfect science than the imperfect science of them getting kicked out of the exam. What is more clear is the timestamp of when they answered a particular question, and if it says that they answered a question multiple times, that's because they changed their answer. So something to watch for. So you can also see if they took multiple attempts. Each individual attempt will have its own log. And then I believe that these quiz logs are saved for 60 days after the student takes the exam. But don't quote me on that. Like I said, it's listed here in the documentation from Canvas. So more questions about that, let us know or reach out to Canvas support directly. They're very good about clarifying some of that information. Okay, so that's the quizzes log. And then at this point in the semester, the other Canvas specific question that we've gotten quite a bit is about how to use the gradebook. And in Canvas, the gradebook can get a little bit unwieldy. And so this page has a lot of tips. The question here is, can you give a couple of recommendations about how to filter it so that I can see some but not all of the grade items or those columns in the gradebook? My first inclination is to change the way that it sorts it, so you can see the most recent due dates first, and then focus on those and not have to scroll all the way over. The other thing that comes to mind is that you can limit what is shown in the gradebook if you have your gradebook set up in categories. So if you have a category for discussions, for homework, and then for quizzes and for exams, for example, you can filter your gradebook to just see the assignments that are assignments, and you can filter it to just see the assignments that are quizzes. And so that would be one strategy. But again, this how to use the gradebook page is a really good place to start. And then again, if you have more specific questions, reaching out to us or to Canvas directly. And then another really great question that came in was, so you create all of your assignments in Canvas, or you create your quizzes, and they only show up in the assignments and the quizzes area. Whoops. And they don't show up where you would expect them to in the modules on the home page. And so the reason for that is that the modules area is sort of where Canvas intends for you to actually do the organizing of your course, and the assignments and the quizzes area, that sort of thing. Those are sort of the buckets where that material lives. Similar to how pages all live under the pages area, but you organize the pages within the modules. And so if you want to think about this home page, or this, in more specifically, this modules area under the home page, that's where you sort of curate or map out your course, how you expect students to go through it. So if I want them to read this overview and then take a particular quiz, if I have one, no. We'll do a discussion instead. All right. So if I want them to do this anyone can paint discussion, I can add it then here to that module. So it's sort of in context where you intend for it to go. If whether it be that linearly, chronologically, or based on topic. It's sort of a mix of how instructors prefer to do that. Some folks like to have things broken down by week or unit, and then other instructors like to have a module just to reduce the clutter of like unit quizzes, and then have all of their quizzes posted there. So students don't have to rely on going over to the quizzes tab to get to them. So that's a great question. And then the last thing that I had to talk about, unless Todd something occurs to him that he wants to chime back in, is that we do have webinars. Like I said, on the Teaching Remotely page, we did 2 yesterday on grading in Canvas, so that sort of speaks to that gradebook question again too, if you wanted to get your gradebook set up to begin with, and then writing good multiple choice questions and using them to, in particular, to assess learning, sort of taking one step beyond checking whether they read the text, which at this point is important. So then this morning we did have the accommodations and accessibility webinar that Todd referenced, and that recording will be up here probably by the time the email that goes with this recording comes out. And then this afternoon, sort of right after this, we'll have one on authentic assessments, making sure that the assessments that you're giving suit your objectives for the course. So not everything needs to be a multiple choice exam. If that's what you concluded, if you went to or watched the multiple choice exam webinar. So those will be there, and then the resources that we've put up thus far are still all out there, and it can be a lot to sift through. So again, keep sending your questions to us, and if you'd like to sit down virtually and have a consultation with one of us in CATL, do let us know. So thanks everybody that tuned in, for tuning in, and we'll see you back here. Next week, I think the same time for Teach Tuesday, but watch the email that comes out with this recording in case I'm wrong about that. So thanks for watching, everybody. Okay, no webinars next week, but the recordings of this week's webinars will be up there. And then do submit your Teach Tuesday questions, and we'll see you next week. Thanks, Todd.